We turn now to Ohio Republican Congressman Mike Turner. Good morning. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
A lot to get to with you. I want to ask you about this breaking news that President Trump fired 15 inspectors general. Those are the federal watchdogs who monitor for waste, fraud, and abuse. He didn't give 30 days notice as legally required. Does this concern you that these agencies can't police themselves?
Well, this is very common that there's turnover when a new president comes in to do a review of what's happening in these agencies and in the IGs. I think there'll be a review as they put these individuals back, and some of the individuals will be replaced, obviously. But clearly they need to bring in their own team. They need to look at what the performance is for these individuals, and it's very common as new administrations come in that specifically these positions be replaced.
So you're not concerned these are just going to be loyalists?
Well, every administration replaces them. So in the end, they tend to be. I mean, what I have seen, and I think what we have seen throughout all administrations, of these tend to be incredibly professional individuals that really are great watchdogs. And I think we'll see that from this administration.
What should happen now that the CIA has released this low confidence assessment that it was most likely a lab leak, a research experiment, versus naturally occurring virus that resulted in the COVID pandemic?
Well, the Biden administration really has been an impediment to getting to the answer here. Congress passed,
this is their finding.
Right, but Congress passed and the Biden administration signed an order declassifying the information concerning the lab leak theory and the issues with respect to COVID origins. And the administration still refused to release it. I think this is a great start.
Yeah.
And really, it's been unfortunate that the administration has been slow. This is a good turning point because clearly this was not of natural origins.
We have more to talk about on the China front on the other side of this break, so stay with us, and we hope all of you will as well. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Face the Nation. We return to our conversation now with Ohio Republican Congressman Mike Turner. Just to pick up on the topic of China, we've been talking about TikTok. The law stated that January 19th, and the Supreme Court upheld this, that the owner, ByteDance, would have to sell TikTok to an American owner. Inauguration Day, January 20th, the CEO of TikTok, whose company is deemed a national security threat under U.S. law, was seated next to Tulsi Gabbard, the pick to run the intelligence community. Despite this national security law. You can see the picture of him right there. And Mr. Trump seems to have given them a reprieve. The editorial board of the Wall Street Journal said Mr. Trump's TikTok order shows a Biden-like disdain for limits on his power. What do you make of this decision not to implement the law for at least a period of time? Well,
let's be clear. TikTok is absolutely a national security threat. The law passed by Congress that came out of the House China Select Committee that was chaired by Michael Gallagher that drafted this law found that TikTok was a national security risk because of two things: its access to data and its ability to use itself as a propaganda tool by China itself, and the laws in China that allowed China to compel TikTok to manipulate itself, both its data and its access to China and its use of propaganda. The Supreme Court upheld this. It remains a national security threat. And because of that, the United States Congress, the law that is the law of the land, says that ByteDance needs to divest itself. Now, the only thing that would protect the United States and protect our citizens is divestiture.
Meaning sell it.
And that means that ByteDance needs to divest itself. Now, Elon Musk has said something very interesting. He said, of course, he's noted that Twitter, his ex, does not have access to China. And that's sort of an admission by China as to what they're doing with TikTok. They won't let Twitter or X in, almost an admission as to what they're doing. Also, ByteDance have said, well, we won't sell it. Another admission that it's really not a business. This is a propaganda tool, is an access to data.
But Donald Trump's not convinced of that because he issued an executive order saying he'll figure out a deal.
Well, he has said, and we certainly hope that he gets a deal that recognizes the issue of national security,
but
because there is no role.
days to come to that deal.
There is no role in
they're
which
not selling.
There is no role. That's what they've said. There is no role in which they can remain active, in which China can have access to this data. Let me give you just two examples. And by the way, I commend to people the Supreme Court decision, because it lays out in incredible detail the national security threat. If the app is on your phone, they have access to the data on your phone. And President Trump
outside of that app.
Outside of that app, and even the threat is to the access that your phone has to other app and other data, and that's why governments have prohibited the app being on government phones. U.S., U.K., and India has banned the whole app in its country. And then, of course, there's the propaganda aspect of how this can be manipulated. Romania just set aside its entire presidential election because of concerns that TikTok has manipulated data and propaganda with respect to its presidential election. Grave concerns as to what can be done with this, with TikTok.
I want to ask you as well about what's happening on Capitol Hill. You've been on this program many times as chair of the House Intelligence Committee. Speaker Johnson ousted you from that position as chair recently. What can you share with us about the conversation you had and the explanation, because you run it in a bipartisan way? Yes,
and I think certainly bipartisanship is incredibly important. And after I had the conversation with the Speaker, you and I spoke.
Yes.
The speaker related, certainly, as we discussed, that an element included concerns from Mar-a-Lago. He's since walked that back. President Trump's staff has been in touch with me.
He flatly denied it.
President Trump staff has been in touch with me and said that was not the case. The one thing that he has said is that he wanted to take the committee in a different direction. I'm a little concerned because his different direction indicates, pursuing the elusive deep state. And, my concern is the focus should be on the committee of national security, which is what my focus has been, on state actors, non-state actors, those individuals who want to do our country harm. There certainly are bad actors and people that we need to pursue, and we certainly have done so, where we find that there are laws that need to be changed to pursue people, to criminalize bad actions. We certainly have done that. But there are people every day who get up in the intelligence community who work hard to make certain that China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran are prevented from doing Americans harm. And we need to focus on how we can work together to make certain we protect our country. Because protecting the safety of Americans is a fundamental responsibility. But just to button one thing up, when you say the White House and Mar-a-Lago said that's not the case, they didn't ask for you to be replaced. Correct. Are you saying the speaker lied? I'm not going to say that. I have the speaker and I have a good relationship with the speaker. Has at this point appointed me to lead the NATO Parliamentary Assembly on behalf of the House. I remain on the Armed Services Committee. I'm going to remain with a strong role in national security, and I'm going to continue to focus on national security and on protecting the country. The new chair has voted against Ukraine aid. When you say the mission is pursuing the elusive deep state, what does that mean? Weaponizing the committee? We'll have to see as to what direction that they go. I know that that's a concern. Going after the Intelligence Committee. I know that that's going to be a concern. We'll have to see what direction they go. I do know that national security is going to continue to be an area of concern. It certainly was my focus. So you are concerned that the oversight in the congressional branch of the intelligence community will not happen and will instead be focused in a politicized way? Is that what I hear you saying? I know that my focus was national security, and that's going to continue to be my focus in Congress. Very good. And we'll have to stay tuned for the rest. Very diplomatic. Before I let you go, Donald Trump pulled security details from those who face active threats from Iran, including the former CIA director and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Would you ask him to reconsider that? Well, obviously, I'm very concerned for Mike Pompeo. All right. Mike Turner, thank you for your time. We'll be right back.